a little cat. It's a little chilly today, so got my coat on. What is up? Why is it so foggy? It's so strange. Is there something wrong with my camera? I don't know. It's probably the light. Always have to figure out this setup. Wonder if I should go over there and it's like a little less bright. I can move over a little. Oh, I'm getting a notification from my own live stream. Watch live now. Nice. I'll watch myself. So, okay. Keep an eye on that. Yeah, it's a little, maybe there. It's a little chilly today. Oh, that would help if it's not knotted up there. Got some kitties running around. There's one. Oh, yeah. So this weekend I was finally getting out of the house and doing things. It was a kind of this fantasy. That's a bird. You leave him alone. Kind of a Renaissance fair-ish thing where people dress up like fantasy things and Disney princesses and whatnot. That was Saturday, and then yesterday was kind of another meetup. So it was nice to meet some new people, just get out and see people having fun, dressing up. Cool beans. Hope to do more of that soon. I'm looking into other places to check out. Let's see. So we're on chapter 14. I should see how long the rest of the chapters are. Because we are that far from the end. But I am concerned about how cold the weather might get. I don't want to be out here in a winter coat. We've got, after today, we've got 9 chapters left. So that is, well, less than 2 months. Still might be getting cold. We'll see. See how it goes. Might. How would you feel if if I did it twice a week to get through it before the weather gets cold? Let me know if that would work for you, because I can do that. I don't know what other day in addition to Saturdays would be good. Okay, it's cold. I need my hair on my neck. Warm my ears. Okay. So let me know about that. That's Oliver. I don't know where Petey is. Hey, Ollie! Yeah? Having a good day outside? Yeah, I bet. What else is new? Oh, as I said before, and I should just mention that on every video just in case, if you're watching this video on anything other than YouTube, please let me know. If it's not like, YouTube or my Buy Me a Coffee channel, let me know, because I want to know where this video gets shared and how it's affecting my analytics. So I can't figure it out myself where the traffic comes from, but I am concerned about where it gets shared. So let me know if you're seeing this anywhere other than YouTube. Also, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee thing / Kendall Brenneman. Pretty easy. If you want to go there and support my work, And I have something going on over there too, if you like hearing me read in my normal voice, not smoking, because it doesn't have anything to do with that. What I have there right now is reading from old diaries. So that's my project right now, and I'm trying to get some publicity for that. I might be getting some publicity in 2 different publications, but I need to follow up on that and see what I need to do. That's exciting. It's a fun project of mine, of many projects. I have so many projects, and too many to work on. So let's get started on chapter 14. Let's see, we've got the regular lineup over here. I've got the ones that I made. my special mix. And the ecstasy smokes are like the film smoke things that I'm not exactly sure what all's in them. It's tobacco and nicotine free for actors, you know, because as far as I know in the US, you're not allowed to smoke real cigarettes on set in films. I was shocked to learn you can in France. I worked on one film there and they were just handing out real cigarettes. I had no idea that was legal. Let's see. Okay, then I got 2 lucky strikes over here too. I'm gonna do one of my cigarettes first. I like my mix. It's very herbal. I kind of look forward to like experimenting more with the herbs I got to make just a nice herbal mix. Like it's kind of the smell that I want. I want like a nice soothing herbal smell. I need to figure out what does that. I wonder if sage would be nice. Sage smells good when it's burned. I'm just not sure if you should inhale that or not. I will look into it. Sage might be nice. What was I gonna say? Oh, I don't remember now. Oh, I guess I was thinking about the herbal things, and I was thinking about one of my favorite drinks that I got at this bar in London. Wait, what was it called? The Nightjar? I think it's the name of a bird. I think it's called the Nightjar. Awesome place. Had my favorite drink. The last time I went, they did not have it, and I was very sad. It was the Foragers something. It was very herbal. Like I used to love fruity drinks, and then I had that, and I was like, this is awesome. Tastes like dirt. No, it's very earthy. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna get started with the reading. Got 11 people. Why is this like in the way today? Oh well. Let's see. Oh, I think something terrible happens this week too. The monastic life had plateau period without signpost or roadblock. The next 2 years were for Sister Luke one of those. These. Her inner peace was rich and profound. She worked prodigiously. The drama of the expanding Congo touched off a patriotic side she never knew she had, but accepted tranquilly now as one of those atavisms which every nun brought to the convent from her former life and never quite outgrew. She listened to her male patients talking about cobalt and uranium and the export of a cotton crop that would come close to 30,000 tons in 1938. Let's get comfy here. Okay. 1938. Railroads had thrust deeper into the interior, like bustling capillaries spreading out from the main arteries of the Congo River. Colonization is transportation, said the colonials, boasting of track mileages to the nuns counting converts in silence. There was a new vocabulary, compact, a little harsh, following phrases like office d'exploitation de transport coloniaux had contracted to Otraco. Utex Leo meant the great textile mills of Leopoldville. INIAC stood for the Institut National pour Études Agronomiques. Sister Luke felt a sweet possessiveness for AMI, Assistant Médico Indigène. Indigène, yes, I think that's right. I'm losing the French. I tried to sign up for this thing online where they match you with an elderly person and you converse in French. But I was too old. They had a cutoff for the younger people. I was too old for it. So I was bummed out. I was hoping maybe I could practice French that way. With a lonely older person. I'd like to do that in Dutch, but I really know no Dutch, so I can't hold a conversation. Zoom. Sister Luke felt a sweet possessiveness for, which the government had created in 1935, a year after she had trained her first team of dressing boys, not with any such imposing medical program in view. She reminded herself humbly, but mainly because their big black eyes had begged her to teach them more. Nevertheless, she had put her grain of sand into a foundation. She could look at the top structure now in 1938 and remember a prayer made on a ship nearly 6 years ago when she had seen the first missionary sisters through a sea captain's eyes and had whispered fervently, "Oh God, let me do some good." Meanwhile, in Europe, strange events had been happening, incomprehensible when you got only headlines. In the past 4 years, the recreation talk had turned off into world affairs, especially when there were souls to pray for like those of the Jews persecuted by the Nazis, or of the Spaniards dying in a civil war. Kings and countries seemed to be vanishing. Yugoslavia's Alexander assassinated, England's Edward abdicated, Austria absorbed into Germany, and now in September of 38, a slice of Czechoslovakia claimed by Hitler and actually handed over to him by terms of a peculiar document signed in Munich and called a peace treaty. Ooh. Do you think you'll recognize Europe when you go back? The nuns asked Mother Mathilde. The Superior was making ready to go back to Belgium for the election of a new Superior General, which took place every 6 years. For a time, there had been an international crisis, which had started the old nuns like Sister Eucharistia, reminiscing about the days of 14 to 18, but that had blown over after the Munich Pact. Now the only battle Mother Mathilde had to worry about would be that of her thin blood against the wintry winds of the homeland. The nuns made a big to-do over her departure. The teachers knitted shawls and mittens for her, aired and pressed her woolen gown and scapular. The nurses prepared the medical kit with plenty of caffeine to stimulate her circulation when their ship would come into the cold currents of the Atlantic. Sister Luke was thankful that she had not been selected to accompany Mother Mathilde. She had the Congo so deeply in her blood, she could not imagine even a furlough in the homeland. Belgium would look no bigger than her bandana. She thought of the nuns of her congregation, in India, Ceylon, China, and in all the other missions of Africa, doing the same things for their superiors as they were doing for Mother Mathilde, each community wanting its chief to look the most loved and cared for. She imagined the processions of all those elderly, wise women whose hair would be grey if visible, coming into the mother house with the auras of their remote stations about them. The brown triangular masks of the superiors from the tropics would perhaps startle the pale nuns from England and the continent, and the novices in the mother house would go about on tiptoe in the presence of so many august matriarchs, and perhaps dream longingly of one day qualifying for the missions as she herself had dreamed. 11 years ago, she told herself, amazed. Mother Mathilde allocated her authority meticulously, for she was to be absent 3 months. She named Rose the acting superior of the community. Sister Monique was given total responsibility for the schools, Sister Eucharistia for the nursery, and Sister Luke for the hospital. To each of her deputies she gave in private a part in council. For you, she said to Sister Luke, I urge above all moderation. Remember, since your TB attack, you have had no respite from a surcharge program. But you will have it when I return. She smiled and patted a letter on her desk. I shall be bringing back a qualified nurse to take over the surgery. Meanwhile, I pray you will have no special problems. But if you do, sister, remember to ask God's guidance always before you act. There will be no problems, ma mère. Sister Luke looked with devotion at the sturdy little matriarch who had seen her through so many trials in the early days. I believe every untoward event which can happen has happened. God was good to me. He gave me my tribulations en bloc in the first years out here. Affairs have rolled on wheels since then. She smiled serenely. We're going to try to have that addition to the maternity completed for your return, ma mère. Now, let's see. How about a lucky strike? Who's out there? Hello. 7 of you? Oop. She and Sister Aurelie took turns supervising the building of the maternity annex, sharing the joy of steering to completion a project long dreamed of by Mother Mathilde. The rising birth rate in the European colony had outstripped the capacity of the original maternity pavilion. Plans for an annex had been going back and forth for months between offices of the government, of the vicar apostolic, and of Mother Mathilde, who alone knew what maternity must have and patiently amended the blueprints. Progress on her notes were what the nuns went daily to check. The edifice, cradled in its network of bamboo scaffolding, rose visibly during the months of October and November. The Italian contractor had hired boys from the bush to augment his own gang of skilled masons and carpenters, since he too was caught in the driving desire to complete the job for the return of Mother Mathilde, whom he called a saint pure and simple. The bush boys scurried like monkeys through the meshwork of scaffolding, singing incessantly as they worked, and when their wives came once a week to the construction site to carry away the first white man's food and yard goods their husbands had ever earned, it was almost like being in the jungle. Ooh, did it again. Drums were brought out, and there was singing and dancing in the temporary compound that housed the bush boys. It whets my thirst for souls just to look at them, Sister Aurelie confided wistfully. What an opportunity to evangelize if one only had the time. When it was her turn to supervise, she always took a first aid kit. I bait my hook with this, she said to Sister Luke. Occasionally one of the bush boys came shyly to her, with a bleeding finger to be bandaged, or a great rolling black eye to be cleansed of a fleck of mortar. Then, speaking fluent Kiswahili and smiling disarmingly all the while, she learned his name, his clan and village, the number of wives he possessed, and how many children the Supreme Being had enriched him with. That great one, she would say, who is the same as my God. Yes, yes, the very same. Sister Luke shared her companion's eagerness for converts, but her way, she confided, would have been through teaching had there been time. When she looked at the bush boys, she saw first of all the charms and fetishes they wore, each bit of bone, bird claw, and tuft of wild beast's hair, welding them in fear to the sorcerers and witch doctors who ruled their lives from birth to death. Teach just one of those monkeys to lance an abscess and see that pus is pus and not an evil demon, she said to Sister Aurelie, and you'll have him started on his way out of darkness. If she could have known with what stupefying suddenness their wishes were to be granted, hers for getting some of those repulsive charms off a bush boy's neck, and Sister Aurelie's for making converts quickly, Sister Luke would have torn from her thoughts such venturesome wishing every time she gazed at the bush boys. All through November, she and Sister Aurelie cultivated them and made secret plans to lure them to the Christmas Eve service in the chapel. And all through November, as Sister Luke was to learn later, a sorcerer out in the bush was telling one of those boys that if he could kill a woman, preferably a white, then he would be freed forever from the spirit of a dead wife who haunted him. In the fortnight before Christmas, Sister Aurelie had the night watch in maternity when the bush boy came. He had made a cut on his thumb, and he held it up bleeding as he peered through the glass of the postnatal ward, where she had just brought the newborn babies to their mothers for breastfeeding. Get ready. If Madame will excuse me for just a moment, she said, it's one of our building boys come to me for first aid. She went to the door with a happy smile and opened it. 6 women saw the first act. The boy thrust himself into the ward with a club of wood held behind his back. He looked about wildly, as if unable to choose which white woman, those in the beds, or the tall familiar one whose clothes as well as her face were white. Suddenly he lifted his club and crashed it down on Sister Aurelie's skull. The skull was split open at the first blow, but somehow she stayed on her feet. The one nursing mother, who had not fainted, saw her walk slowly, very steadily toward the bush boy, backing him step by step from the ward. The mother began to scream from her bed as she saw him deliver in the corridor 2 more blows which drove Sister Aurelie down to the floor and out of her sight. She screamed when Emile came and wrestled the crazed native into submission, and continued screaming as Sister Luke came flying down the corridor, unable at first to take in anything beyond the fact that the patient needed care, though she saw, as in a nightmare, the 2 panting black forms with Emile on top and the blood on the headbands of Sister Aurelie as she stepped over the still white shape. Her hand was absolutely steady as she shot sedative into her screaming patient, drowning away the voice of hysteria. She was dead, sister, when she walked towards him, dead and smiling as she walked. Sister Aurelie is not dead, madame, not dead. Sleep now, she is not dead. She telephoned the acting superior before she left the ward, suggesting politely that the force publique be summoned at once. Then she opened the glass door and stepped quietly into the corridor. I wonder if this really happened. It must have really happened. It's frightening. Emile's night duty boys were with him now. They had the maniac bound securely and were sitting on him. Their eyes, feral with fright, rolled toward the body of Sister Aurelie. She knelt and for the second time in her religious life put her fingers on her sister's warm wrist that had no pulse. Emile, she whispered, help me lift her. But before Emile could or would move, the other 3 deputies of Mother Mathilde were there, Sisters Mary Rose, Monique, and Eucharistia. The 4 of them carried Sister Aurelie to the treatment room and laid her on the table. Sister Luke nodded to the acting superior, who went away at once to call a priest. They made the first funeral toilette without breaking the grand silence, each one performing the task for which her specialty best fitted her. Sister Monique of the arts arranging the skirts and bending back into shell shape the crushed coif. Sister Eucharistia of the nursery folding the dead hands in a pose of childlike trust over the pectoral cross. Sister Luke sponging away the only trickle of blood that showed on Sister Aurelie's face, and noting, with a professional coldness that horrified her afterwards, that only the headbands had held the brains in place. Father Stephen came with the oils for extreme unction, and Sister Marie Rose with the little paper promising obedience to God until death, which she placed between the folded hands. There was this... Cat sees something. Don't kill anything. There was a stupefaction in all their voices as they made the responses, and their gestures seemed dreamy and thoughtless, like those of somnambulists hesitating on the edge of an abyss. Sister Luke remained on vigil with Sister Marie Rose. Kneeling on her chair, she gazed stunned at the calm profile that showed no distortions from a death by violence. After a long while, the acting superior broke the silence, as was her prerogative. How did it happen, Sister Luke? She whispered. I don't know exactly. I heard the boys chattering something about a sorcerer. Emile will have the whole story. I had to attend to the patient first, of course. She stopped and caught her breath. Was it possible she had done that first? The tom-toms beat the story out to the bush without pause. All I know, sister, is that she backed the killer out of the ward after she was struck. All I know, she said silently to Sister Aurelie, is that you smiled as you walked toward that door, because you thought you had a convert on the hook. Our thirst for souls, my little sister. You baited your hooks with bandages, I with lancets. We were like 2 misers gazing covetously at that great treasure of unclaimed souls, do you remember? And how we plotted to bring them to chapel at Christmas time with our Christian boys. That will fetch them, we said with our eyes. Sister Aurelie's lips still had the rosy hue of life, and were upcurved in her shy, sweet smile. They seemed to move as she stared at them, as though breath beat behind them to form again the yearning words, "It whets my thirst for souls just to look at them." You'll never look again. Your eyes are closed forever, with a club. Christ wasn't satisfied with our little hooks. He wanted the whole net thrown. She couldn't realize anything, At least of all, the fact that she was looking at the hole net thrown as her bitter inner voice cried out against the senseless slaughter. If she watched each step, she might find something concrete to put into the report she must write for the mother house, something to take the place of those phrases of sweetness and light which she had never been able to force from her pen. The report would be published in the convent magazine. She recalled the only one she had ever read, which began, "I dip my pen in the blood of a little martyr." Watch each step, gather the facts you can write about without squirming. The acting superior met the nuns outside the dormitory the next morning and told them that the Mass would be a requiem for Sister Aurelie, who had been accidentally killed in the night. After the Mass, before they entered the refectory, she would give them details to prepare them to meet the publics. The burial would take place before noon. Everything must be quick in the tropics, but you cannot write that. Nor can I write that it could have been I, instead of Sister Aurelie, had I been just a few minutes earlier on my night rounds, had I not lingered in the surgery ward. No, she told herself, you cannot write that because your readers know that it could have been none other than she whom God chose. There is no hazard in his plan. She was ripe for heaven, the nuns will say afterwards, and explain away with that familiar phrase every aspect of brutal chance and that needless death. Okay. We will do an ecstasy one. Outside the refectory, the acting superior stopped the little community that had just sung a requiem for a death not yet understood. Sister Aurelie died in an act of charity, she said quietly. A crazed black, who is now safely in the hands of the law, came to the maternity last night and struck her down. We know that she pardoned him before she died, and that her last cry to Christ was, "Don't count this sin." Sister Luke watched the nuns stiffen with shock. There were little gasps, and then that silence of stupefaction that had hung over the treatment room the night before. Sister Marie Rose continued, "We know that our beloved sister is counting on us, not to avenge her even in thought, but to continue with the natives the apostolate that was so dear to her heart. Presently you will be with your boys. They are fearful of our reaction, expecting vengeance, of course. Show them that the Christian does not revenge himself, that Christ has taught us to love our enemies. This is the mission our martyred sister has left for us to complete. That I can write, died in an act of charity. But can I myself believe it?" Sister Luke asked herself despairingly. The confidence of every black had to be won again, and that made, in the end, the story of the continuing mission which shot the light of faith into the report Sister Luke had despaired of being able to write. She knew that some of her sisters had fear when, after the funeral, they returned to their posts and met their boys. Some were so revolted they appeared to be physically ill. The boys outnumbered the sisters 20-1 in every department, and their black faces, suddenly ugly and estranged with shame, recalled to all the nuns the impressions of their first days in the Congo, that they were adrift, very white and visible, on a sea of dark countenances, fathomless, impenetrable, and unknowable. Her own efforts with the meal, a convert, familiar with whites for years, recapitulated in a sense the experiences of the whole sisterhood in those first hours. As she approached the desk, he turned quickly and started down the corridor, hunched forward, as though a lash curled over his back. If you're on your way to the Contagious, Emile," she called after him, "would you please take these papers to Sister Margarita?" Grey and shrunken, he turned to look at her, unable to comprehend the friendly tone. She pulled him back to her with a smile. "The sisters are not angry with us?" he asked in Kiswahili, as if his race had lost the right to speak in the tongue of the murdered one. "Emile, you are a Christian like us. You know our hearts have no place for rancor." "No, Emile," she said gently, "we are not angry." "But with that one then, Mamma Luke, that shame of shames we gave over to Monsieur Marcel last night." "Not even with him, Emile." "I don't understand." He stared at her, his brow wrinkled in thought. Slowly a wonder overcame the fear in his eyes. He shook his head. She watched the familiar stern look of protectiveness come over his face. If such a death happened to one of ours, Mameluke, we would stake the murderer out along the river bank, and each fisherman would cut a piece of his flesh for bait until there was nothing left but his bones. You would have a meal, if... She touched the small gold cross suspended from a thong about his neck. If, I say, you are not wearing that sign of him who taught us to forgive. A queer little smile wreathed his face as when, sometimes in the labs, she caught him in an error he knew better than to make. That's what you must make the boys understand, Emile. Remember, you're their capita, my deputy. He took the paper she handed to him and bowed. He held his small, stocky Bantu body very erect as he walked away. Midway in the hall, he thought of something and came back. Mameluke. From the pocket of his shorts, he drew forth a twisted bunch of feathers and claws on a string and laid it on the desk. One of the boys tore this off that shame of shames last night, so that in prison he'll have no protection from his evil spirits. She looked at the fetish lying on the logbook, covering a part of the neat newsprint handwriting of Sister Aurelie. Her heart beat so fast she couldn't speak for a moment. Which one, Emile? Ilunga, Mameluke. Ilunga, the last of their unbaptized black boys. Her hand closed over the charm so tightly that its claws pricked her palm. The small, precise writing beneath her fist blurred as she stared at it. Ilunga, she whispered to Sister Aurelie. It was his grief for your body on the floor that gave him courage to touch this witch thing. You have one on the hook, my little sister. You have one on the hook. Presently she opened her hand and held out the fetish to Emile. You must send it back to the boy in jail, she said. We cannot leave him defenseless there, Emile. He must have this to protect him against the law. But it will not, Mameluke. Emile's startled eyes rolled from the fetish to her face. That's just what we must let him find out for himself, Emile, she said very softly. She took him into the conspiracy with a smile that brought his own back again. He went off like a runner burdened with news for his boys. In the days that followed, the nuns spoke often in the recreation of Sister Aurelie, but never with any grief in their low, thoughtful voices. There was, on the contrary, a faint suggestion of envy. If only I had been chosen. Sister Luke felt the envy curl and twist in her own heart one night when Sister Monique, with matchless rhetoric, spoke of the supreme grace God had given to Sister Aurelie, the grace of dying for him. There was a time, Sister Luke reflected, when such a longing to die for Christ would have seemed exaggerated, even possibly psychopathic, but now no longer. She tried to analyze the change that had come over her in the past 2 years, ever since she had had that vision in the treehouse of what it was to be a real nun. It seemed almost as if she had been one since then. A true nun worked until she dropped, prayed until she was hollow, and hoped humbly and continuously that one day the blessed Lord would take her up to heaven through a little martyrdom that would cause her unfinished business on earth to go on as Sister Aurelie's was continuing. We'll do the Lucky Strike. 3 more of the sisters had received without asking the fetishes their boys wore. They had given them back to the boys exactly as she had done, to be tried and found wanting by themselves, although she had never told them about that particular exchange between herself and Emile. She looked around the recreation circle at the faces of her sisters, turning grief into a glory, as they talked about Sister Aurelie's blood falling fruitfully on the black race that had struck her down. The talk did not sound sweet or childish. What caught her attention was the fact that they had all replied in the same way when presented with the fetishes. As if a single intelligence inspired all our separate brains, she thought. Then she recalled one exception and spoke it out loud. In the first shock I called it senseless slaughter, she said. I even cried out against Christ for the injustice. I think we all did that, Sister Luke, said the acting superior. It is no cause for self-reproach. If we saw and understood on the instant every one of God's mysterious moves, we would no longer be here, would we? The nuns nodded appreciatively, since she had spoken to them all. And from them all, as from me, Sister Luke thought, she has lifted that last shadow of remorse for those bitter hours when we prayed mechanically and cried, why, as we followed the body to its hasty grave. The thrumming night beat in against their small circle of light under the kiosk. The temperature of the December midsummer was stifling. The parched earth gave back after sundown all the blazing heat it had sucked in during the day. Only crickets and bats had the will to move in the torrid dark, she thought, and nuns. She listened to the click of their knitting needles, making a busy local obligato to the bat squeaks and insect shrilling. There is no heroism in the convent. She smiled as she recalled the familiar maxim of the cloister. And that's the end of that chapter. Yeah, that was definitely shorter, which is fine. Sometimes it gets a little exhausting reading for 45, 50 minutes. I have to, I guess reading in her accent's getting easier. I just hope it sounds okay. I've been bad. I have not been listening back to these. I've been a little busy. But how's it sounding? Any Super Audrey fans out there? Any critiques? Anything I can do better? Of course, there are some words I don't really know how to pronounce the way she would. There's some I make note of. Thank you. Nice to see someone's out there. Hi. Good, yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking what else I can read in other accents, just for the fun of it, although I haven't studied other accents except somewhat English. Thanks. I still have not finished that video that I want to be next about the Sabrina dress. It's taking a while. It takes a little research and I have to film some more things. So I have gone off track with the weekly videos. But, you know, oh well, do what I can. Oh dear, get one out. Let's just get the last of it. What kind of work's being done over there? It's noisy. What else? Yeah. Yep. Videos are not going to be weekly. I'll just get them done as I get them done. I have some ideas. I just kind of got worn out on doing it weekly. I'm still studying for my driving test. I signed up on a website and I'm just like repetitively, what's the word I want? Taking tests. What are they called? The tests. The trial. No, wait. Oh, what's it called? Fake tests. I'm just taking the test over and over again. I'm trying to get better at it so I can ace the real one. That's what I'm doing now. What else am I doing now? My diary thing. Keeping up with that. Sewing. I've been sewing things. Some Outlander stuff for my winter wardrobe because it's so cozy. And I'm going to attempt to make kind of a Victorian skirt, but that'll be for like next summer, not for the winter. So I guess that there's no rush there. Just sewing. I want to knit something. I'm not sure what. It can't be too complex because I'm not that good. I've only knitted like 2 or 3 ties and my nice little capelet scarf thing, which the moths have found, and I'm not happy about that. Having a big moth issue right now. It's terrible. Yeah. What else? Any Audrey news? Trying to get that video done. Yeah, I can't think of any real exciting news. Again, any ideas for future videos, let me know. Here comes a cat. Yes. Yes. Still need to make another video about smoking, just like sitting and smoking, and not this practice one. Just kind of a progress report on the main channel. Must do that. Maybe I could do that this week. There's just so many things on my to-do list. It's hard to keep track and it's hard to keep up. Oh, there's another one. Hey, Pete. It's funny, they just come running through. But I guess that's it. I'm gonna go inside and let's see, what time is it? Almost 6. I want to make some cookies. I keep procrastinating. I wanted to make cookies like last week and the week before that. Some chocolate chip acorn flour cookies. Well, I have the time at the moment. Well, I mean, it's practice for me, with the voice and the smoking. So it's kind of, my way of making sure I keep up with that practice and improve, since that is still my dream role. So let's enjoy this. So it's for you and it's for me, because I need the practice. I'll have to figure out what to do when we finish this book, because I can't sit out here in the winter time. It's going to get way too cold. So, well, I'll at least find a way to practice the voice. But for smoking, I just am not going to be able to sit outside in the winter. But we'll finish this book at least. Oh my goodness. I can't wait till they finally make progress with that movie and start casting, so I know what to do or know if I have a chance or whatnot, and can move on with my life. Okay. I'm gonna go make cookies, I think, and I'll see you next week. Oh yes, let's see. Well, it's okay, so 5 o'clock is still not too bad. It's still okay lighting. So I think we can do 5 o'clock on Saturday again. Once it starts getting too dark, I'll move it forward. And let me know what you think about doing it twice a week, so we get through it a little faster, because I don't want to be out here when it's really cold. So let me know about that and what day would work, if it should just be like Saturday and Sunday, or like Saturday and Wednesday or something like that. Because yeah, we have 9 more chapters to go, and 9 weeks from today, I think it's going to be cold outside, so we have to find a solution for this. Okay, I'm going to go before a cat drops on my head, although that would be really funny, but maybe painful. So thanks for coming by. Sorry about all the postponements this weekend, but I've done pretty well for the past 14 chapters. 14 weeks, wow. Time flies. And cats fly too. Are you going to do it again? Jump it, do it. Yeah. That's my boy. I really hope he doesn't kill too many birds. All right, I will see you on Saturday then. So thanks for coming by. Have a good rest of the week.